Good morning, everybody in YouTube land. It's your buddy Chop It On, senior editor and content contributor provider here at DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for everything DFS. While we get prepped for Week 5 NFL, and you'll start seeing the defense and the tight ends and the running back, all the box checkers videos will start coming out here in the next couple of days. But what I wanted to show you today was opening day of the NHL season. I also provide some NHL content. It's one of my favorite DFS sports. I don't do a lot personally with NBA. I can certainly connect you to the guys that do inside DFS Army, Cash Keg. A lot of the guys are putting together a few articles, some coaching sheets. That theme won't stop when NBA gets up and gets rolling. And the preseason is going to have a huge advantage, to be honest with you, because a lot of people don't know where the rotations are going to go, where all of the benches, where all the players, where all the minutes, where all the opportunities are going to go for scoring. And those that do their diligence and actually dig into the research and have that knowledge advantage can pass that along to you very, very simply. We're going to try and do the same thing over here at the NHL side of things. And I want to give you a quick tour of the research station and show you just a little bit of what you can expect tonight on the 4-game opening slate. Your first bet, your most commonly visited page is likely to be the skaters tab here, but I'm going to show you the overall page really quickly. Not going to walk you through a lot of the details. You can see red is good, red is bad, green is good. And you're going to look for numbers like the implied team total here, the over-under, the odds to win. You see a minus 285 on Toronto. That's going to indicate on a small slate like tonight with 4 games that the goalie, Freddie Anderson, is going to be the chalk goalie on the slate. Everybody's going to jump to the Vegas odds. Oh, he's a minus 300. Let's take him. That's fine for cash games. That's where you should go. Tournaments, I would not go there. I would hope that Ottawa blows up Toronto and somehow Toronto backfires and the goalie gets at least the loss, maybe gets a couple of goals hung on him. I don't know that I would go with an Ottawa stack because I don't know that they're going to score 3, 4, 5 goals. Now, typically Toronto's not very good defensively, so you could feasibly run a stack like that. We have no data to go with on this year's statistical evidence so far, so we don't really know how good Ottawa is. We know Toronto's been good. We know Ottawa has Thomas Chabot. We got some players over there that you could use. I don't know that I would go with full line team stacking type situations. You can do a whole host of things with hockey. Hockey has a lot of different variables to it, with a lot of different scoring lines. You can stack up the top line, the second line, the first power play unit, second power play unit. You can include a defenseman. You can run 2 centers to capture both lines. There's so many different ways that you can run stacks in hockey, but it is advisable that you do run stacks because a lot of times you're going to see, somebody pass to somebody who passes to somebody who scores, and you're going to get the assists and the goal all in that one play. And that's what's going to jump you up the leaderboards. In terms of just theoretical looking over a slate, I'm going to see that based on last year, we've got decent goals for per game out of Toronto. We've got pretty poor goals per game out of Ottawa, but we do have goals allowed that are pretty bad for Ottawa here at 3.67, which means it's good for Toronto. So Toronto is a decent offense going up against a pretty poor defense. Decent offense going up against pretty poor defense leads to the minus 300 that you see out of Vegas in the 4.1 implied team total, which is why everybody in cash games is going to be running into that offense to grab as many pieces as they can. What I'm telling you is on a 4-game slate, ownership is going to be very, very concentrated there, and you should look to get maybe away from that game or capture lower pieces. You go back to the NFL, and this is why playing year-round helps your other sports. Go back to NFL. What are we talking about right now inside DFSArmy.com? We're talking about onslaught stacks. 3+1, 3+2, 2+1, 2+2, 4+2 type stacks where I'm taking 3 players off of one team and running it back with another player on another team. And the last 2 weeks, we've placed first in the Millie Maker, 7th in the Millie Maker. This is over on FanDuel. 7th in the Sunday Million, I should be calling it, and then 6th last week, all with onslaught stacks, 3x1 stacks in lower ownership games. The big games were the Kansas City-Baltimore game 2 weeks ago and the Kansas City-Detroit game last week, and the winner came from the New York Giants game 2 weeks ago and came from the Tampa Bay LA Rams game this last week, the 6th place finisher. So those are the lower owned game that actually goes off, and then having that game stacked is what is going to provide key leverage, because when the first top game goes a little bit flat or not quite according to plan, all of that ownership piled into that one little bucket sits over there on its own and min cashes or doesn't even cash. And that leads to a pathway for a whole bunch of other people that tried different theories to shoot up the leaderboard based on their game panning out and the chalk game not. You're competing with fewer people for that top prize as opposed to that whole herd sitting over there in that one large bucket. This is the situation tonight on a 4-game slate. Major chalk in Toronto, so look for other opportunities. Maybe you think it is Ottawa and you want to double the leverage. If Ottawa scores 4 goals tonight, Freddie Andersen gets tanked. And all of those people that rode him go down with the ship. And none of them, because they played Freddie Andersen, none of them had any Ottawa Senators. Therefore, you go all the way to the top of the leaderboard because you double whammy it. You sort of double dip it. It's possible. It's not all that likely. But it doesn't have to be that likely to win, a 10,000 person GPP. It just has to happen once in a while. And hockey is so volatile that the chalk fails a lot, and the leverage plays work a lot. Washington Capitals, St. Louis Blue. It looks like a pretty bummer game. 2.6, 2.9, minus 130, minus whatever. If you were looking for a contrarian goalie, I might look at a Jordan Binnington at home. Don't know that I would go with a Holtby on the road. But pretty much 50-50 game, could pan out either way. St. Louis raises the banner tonight, Stanley Cup champions, obviously. City's going to be out of its mind. The crowd is going to be just all sorts of fired up. And I don't know how that translates to how the Blues are going to react. Are they going to get caught up in the moment, come out flat? Or are they going to say, back to work, boys, let's try and go get another one and come out guns blazing? I really don't know. I don't think anybody really knows because we've seen this in sports go either way. And I don't know how this team's necessarily. I'd like to think St. Louis is going to come out and whip the crap out of Washington, 4-1. But I'm not confident enough that I'm going to stack them up. Now, if you wanted to play a big GPP, you wanted to take a shot on them or Washington, with Ovechkin and the power play stuff, you're going to get them at a little bit lower ownership tonight because everybody's going to be in Toronto and other games. So it might not be a bad leverage play in its own right. I just don't know how frequently something like that's going to pay off for you. Vancouver and Edmonton. Edmonton has Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl has a couple of great value pieces to go with it. Vancouver always has value, but Vancouver doesn't score a ton of goals. Neither does Edmonton. The good news about Edmonton, though, is we always know where that scoring is coming from. If Edmonton erupts for 4 or 5 goals, which won't happen often, but when it does, generally speaking, Connor McDavid's having a big game because we know all of that offense concentrates through him. Over in Vancouver, it's a little bit like that, but it's not quite as stretched out. They've got a couple of lines. Edmonton typically only has the one line. So if you wanted to take some pieces of the top line in Edmonton, go for it. If they score a bunch of goals tonight, you are going to get large chunks of that most of the time. Now, Vancouver, you might run some value stuff. That would get you into Toronto for cash. Take a couple of Vancouver pieces because you're not going to run a lot of Toronto guys and then run a Connor McDavid. That's not going to be too feasible with the salary cap. So these are just little mix and match ideas for you tonight. Vegas and San Jose is a 6 on the over-under, 3.4 implied here, 2.6 implied here. Now, if it's me, this is my LA Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week shootout game. Both teams tend to score some goals. 3 here, 3.5 here, 3.15 against here, almost 3 against here. Neither team plays huge quality defense. They're not elite defensive teams. This is the type of team or game that could possibly shoot out. So where I'm telling you where I would do, if I'm playing larger GPPs, I fade the Toronto game most of the time, for the most part, and then I run into this game and stack it up in a couple of different ways. Some San Jose, some Vegas, some both, maybe with a one-off or, 2 people out of the Toronto game. Maybe with Binnington as a goalie. Maybe with the goalie right out of here, the 173 in Marc-Andre Fleury. Probably the most logical pivot off of Freddie Andersen. You're not going to get him at great, super low ownership, but you're going to get him at lower ownership than Freddie. So the point for this whole 4-game slate is to look for ways to get off the chalk. Now, you're going to play the chalk and cash a lot and hope that it works out. You might spread out, not take too many, not take too many from the Toronto game, not too many from Vegas, not too many from San Jose, not, whatever, and really, really spread around. And that way where some of the goals hit, that's fine. Get the key pieces like a Connor McDavid from their teams to where most of the scoring, if any, happens, goes through that one guy. That would be more of a cash concept. Take the chalk goalie and Freddie Andersen, book the win, and move on. But in tournament play, in a volatile sport like hockey, when you're jumping into the fray and you're looking to go against the grain because that we know that's what provides the leverage, you're looking to get rid of the Toronto game for the most part, and you're looking to jump into another game that might possibly shoot out and stack it up, kind of onslaught stack it in NHL, and that's how you're going to do it here. So granted, we're only 10 games in. Here's another little tip for you. You'll hear me echo this a lot. Focus on the top line at home and the second line on the road, because the top line at home typically gets the ice time and typically plays a little bit better because they're matched up against the softer side of the other team's defense, because they get that last right of refusal in the shift changes at the play stoppages, face-offs, and whatever else. The away team takes the ice first. The home team gets to kind of look at it and say, oh, well, we need to put our top line out there because they just put their schlubs on the ice. Then maybe 30 seconds into the shift, things shift around again and whatever. But sometimes that gives you a little bit of an advantage as the home team. I will typically play top lines and third lines at home, second lines on the road. Not always. If Edmonton is on the road, I'm still playing Connor McDavid on the top line because I know where the scoring's coming from out of that team. So take every rule with a grain of salt, apply the general theory, the general ideas of these concepts, and never make anything too black or white. Because black or white rules where you only do this or I only do that, and this guy doesn't have 2.3 shots on goal per game, therefore he's dead to me because he doesn't get the... No, bullshit. He might have 4 or 5 shots tonight. You don't know that. Is he in a good spot? Play him. It's hockey. It doesn't take but one deflection off a skate to go in the back of the net to net you 8 points or something now. Kind of crazy how scoring is getting, but you need to be there and you need to be following somebody who knows the game. I know the hockey game, I know the DFS game a little bit, but I know the overall hockey game fairly well. Anthony, R. Flynn, M. Dell, these guys got your back covered in our hockey room as VIPs and can teach you the game. It's a fun game. If you like baseball, you'll love hockey. And while we're prepping for NBA and while we're prepping for Week 5 NFL, you've got no better place to go. You're already paying for it. We don't charge you for separate sports at DFS Army. We actually just throw it all in. If you're subscribed as a VIP, you have all of this accessible to you already. All of the coaches, all of the tools, this research station, the optimizer, which I didn't show you, all of this stuff is up and running and available to you now. So when you're sitting there waiting for NFL to roll back around, try a different sport. Play a different sport. You might get lucky. You might have fun. You might fall in love. M. Dell was a baseball guy. We taught him hockey, fell in love with the sport, and isn't going anywhere else. He's a coach and contributor now because he fell in headlong and just loves the sport. Wouldn't have it any other way. Hopefully you guys do the same thing. Come in and take a visit. Coupon code CHOP, CHOP, triggers 20%. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell to the video. Follow me out on Twitter. And, of course, come inside DFSArmy.com and check us out. Take care, guys. We'll see you with Week 5 NFL content here coming up next couple of days.